We have all been there. Endless death, dying game after game after game is one of, if not probably, the hardest thing to diagnose in Apex, or really any shooter game at that. But today we are going to go over 7 reasons why you are probably dying in Apex Legends. I can promise you that if you can fix even one of these things, you're going to be way better off when it does come to winning your games. Jumping right into it, first is going to be over peeking, or just in general, peeking. While this is not a movement guide, peeking is one of the most critical movement techniques to get down in Apex. Over peeking is more or less when a player is challenging a fight when they are already low shields or health, which can be a massive mistake. Over peeking when you are already low shields can lead you to getting critically injured and or incentivize enemies to do a push onto you as they think and know you are low health. For me, low health when it does come to peeking is generally anything that can lead your shields to being cracked, so this could be something like only 1 bar of shields left, or something like a single wingman shot could crack you. Similar to that though, poor peeking generally just means you are being too immobile or you're just shooting around objects, and if this is the case, force yourself to try to get some muscle memory built in for peeking. The main goal with peeking is to send out as much damage or firepower as you can before you take any damage at all. This minimizes incoming damage and maximizes your outgoing damage. The best way you can master peeking is by taking a few shots and then ducking back behind cover once an enemy is about to return fire. Be warned though, as enemies nearly always expect a re-peek or a re-challenge, so if you did not do a fair amount of damage on your first peek, then take care when you are re-peeking because they're already going to be looking at that spot. The best way you can re-peek is by peeking at a different angle or the side of an object to prevent enemies from already being pre-aimed at your location. And just one more thing with peeking, something that you should be doing is to constantly be jumping while you are healing up. While healing, stationary behind cover is a solid thing to do and it provides you the ultimate protection. Jump peeking will get you a little bit of information at a time, and this can be massively beneficial to your awareness of what your enemy is doing. And just like peeking in fights, don't keep jumping in the same spot when you are heal peeking. Peeking is a very simple thing to do, but it does require a good emphasis on timing, and it's a bread and butter move for Apex, and it's really something that can be done with both close range shotgun battles to even long range sniper fighting. The next reason why you may be dying is just poor shooting mechanics. The previously mentioned peeking does go hand in hand with this, but more specifically, this means you are being way too immobile when fighting, or just having very linear and easy to track movement. There's a few really easy and basic ways you can switch up your in-fighting movement to try and make yourself harder to hit for enemies. The first is going to be long strafing with slight variations. This is simply just strafing from side to side with slightly more dramatic long strafes in there if possible. The general reason to do this is that the longer the strafe is, the better the chance is at something like aim assist getting lost on you while tracking. Additionally, throwing in a slight tap backwards strafe in there while you are strafing will be a great way to throw enemy shots off. And while long strafing is nice, it's really this slight jitter of movement that will make you appear much less linear and a little bit more random. And if you want one more way to catch your enemies off guard in a close range fight, try doing a crouch here and there in your strafe. Crouch spamming has its uses, and while it can be a great trick, be sure to not spam it too fast. If you spam crouch aggressively fast, generally it works against you, and more or less it just does nothing, as your head and overall hitbox size really aren't moving that much. Slow and longer crouching that has greater separation will let you have more randomness in your fight, and generally will reward you much more than just spamming that crouch button as fast as you can. And one last thing with crouching in fights, it reduces your hipfire spread and it will help you be a little bit more accurate, which can be pretty clutch. Third is simply going to be engaging or starting your fights off way too early. If you fire your weapon or engage in a fight at a range that is poor when it comes to the weaponry you have, all you are doing is revealing your hand and tactics to the enemy, not to mention wasting ammo and the element of surprise. Do not rush fighting, and for the love of everything, do not shoot at someone you know you'll more or less not be able to do anything to. While poking from range is great in something like ranked, and it's a great tactic to do from time to time, and getting a long range knock can be crucial, what's worse though is just gaining enemies' attention when you know you won't really be able to do anything to them. Take a moment and think about where the enemies are before you do engage in a fight. Also, engaging too early could just mean you are firing your weapon too early. Firing when you are not lined up on your target could mean you are wasting a large portion of your magazine, and thus you'll lose any sort of advantage you do have in one magging and be forced to reload before finishing off your enemies. Line up your shots before pulling the trigger. If you are enjoying the video, or if you find it helpful, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. It helps the video get noticed, and I would greatly appreciate the support. Another simple reason why you may be dying is just not healing frequently enough or often enough. Healing mid-fights is one of the best ways to extend your survivability, as even a quick 25 shield cell heal can make a massive difference in a fight. And if you are able to get a battery or even 2 or 3 shield cells off, this could mean a purple 200 health target actually has something like 250 to 300 health to work through. It sounds so obvious, but if you take a small amount of damage, just take a few seconds to max out your health with the pop of a shield cell. Healing needs to be done constantly and consistently during the middle of fights, and this technique should go in tandem with the first tip of heal peeking. Almost always, you're going to be better off trying to lose chasing enemies till you can be more comparable in health, rather than going into a fight with something like 50 health when an enemy might be a full 200. Take a second, heal up a couple more times. Not every engagement will go your way, as no player is perfect, and that's okay. Taking massive damage will happen from time to time, and any decent to great enemy player will want to take advantage of this window of opportunity, so you should expect a push, especially if someone in your squad gets knocked. Don't fret though, there's a handful of things you can do to shut down their opportunities as quickly as possible and once again heal up. Stopping those advancing opponents is a key way to slow things down and get a hold of a situation. The easiest and quickest way to potentially do this is by using your grenades, which makes having them incredibly important. A thermite in the right spot or a well-placed frag or arc star can provide enough relief for you to get that battery or heal off and reset a fight. There's also a ton of Legends abilities that can be helpful in slowing down enemies. Horizon's Black Hole or Tactical Lift, Wraith's Portal to retreat through, or even a legend like Fuse with his clusters or his ultimate. These are a few legends you could consider, but pretty much every legend, or at least a majority of the legends, have some abilities to help you out. Not every ability needs to be used offensively. Some of this also comes back to positioning and being in the right spot, or maybe high ground or in a choke point can be a massive way to help slow down enemies. This does roll us into the next reason why you may be dying, and this is going to be poor positioning. For the most part, high ground is king, and this is for a handful of reasons. For starters, high ground means you can peek enemies and you will be concealing the majority of your body, making yourself harder to hit. While something like the previously mentioned side peeking is massively beneficial, doing that generally still means you are revealing most of your body to incoming damage. High ground also lets you better see what is around, and it's this information you can use to better plan and prevent enemies from pushing you. While I almost always recommend players to control high ground as positioning is key, there is a word of warning for you. When playing something like ranked, taking a superior position nearly always means you will be a target, as players are gonna want to be where you are posted up. In addition to high ground though, understanding the ring's location in relation to you and the squad is also important. Constantly be thinking about where it could rotate, and this will once again make you better prepared to get solid positioning. The ring is also one of the largest factors in determining where players will be moving through, which once again can help you plan. The last thing with positioning is really just challenging when you are not in the greatest of spots. Similarly to the challenging fights too early, do not try to take a fight or a position that is literally uphill or just unattainable. There are situations or spots that can be considered a no-win situation, and the sooner you understand this, the better you can plan to wait for an opening or maybe a third-party opportunity. The faster you diagnose this though, the better off you will be, as you'll be less likely to just throw your game. There's no quick way to really get this type of game sense down, but the more you play, the more informed you will be to make great decisions, and the more you play, the more you will understand the ring locations and where it might end. Another massive thing that can help you in your games is just to understand your enemies. In my experience, I can nearly always tell the skill level of a player by the way they are looking at me. But in all seriousness, it can be very obvious to how good or bad a player is if we do look at a number of factors. The biggest thing is their movement and their aggressiveness. Nearly all good players are going to be playing pretty aggressively, and this is especially the case in pubs, and this will be either in their movement towards you or their just general gun skill towards you. This means they will probably try to deal out damage pretty early on in a fight, even at range, and additionally what weaponry they're using can be a telltale sign, as someone like a pub warrior might be running something like a wingman and R99, more or less just trying to flex on you. The big thing if a player is playing like this is to not panic and try to let them make a mistake, let them come to you, and use that positioning, side peeking, and continual healing to your advantage. Another thing to be aware of though is on the other side, a player playing passively or if they have a long range type of weapon. While playing passive is a good thing to do from time to time if you're trying to farm damage or maybe just trying to get in a good spot, sometimes this means players are a little unconfident with taking charge and it could lean you into trying to make a play off of them. If you know the player is kitted with a long-range weapon, try getting closer to them as well, as this will reduce their ability to do damage to you, generally speaking. The big thing is to try and diagnose quickly what type of player they are, and then you can plan accordingly and understand who your enemy is. Either way, there's a lot of ways to let yourself live longer and stop yourself from dying in your games, but the best way to learn and get better is to put yourself in uncomfortable engagements and just take chances. Learn from mistakes and always be self-reflective after a loss as to how it could have gone differently. If you have any more questions though about Apex Legends, or if you want to find someone to play with, hop into our community Discord. We would love to have you, and I'm pretty active in there as well. Or you can drop a comment down below and I'll try to answer there too. We are also streaming on YouTube now, and I have started another channel for even more content, so be sure to check that out. And as always, Legends, happy gaming.